on the same page, page 3, number 6, under communications. The second line, we received communications around class size for the second grade at Calvin. And then the only other correction I had on page 4, 8.2 summer programming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, I believe, including designing a robot. All right. So there's a motion and second. All in favor of approving these June 13th minutes as amended?
Aye.
I say aye. Is that everybody? Terrific. Next, the June 15th special meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
Any corrections?
Just one. I was actually present as well at that meeting. I was just a little bit
your
late.
name is missing. Sorry.
That's
So we
okay.
need to add. Person who submitted those.
I admittedly was a little bit late on
Okay,
my arrival.
Any other corrections? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, okay, great. So that's 7. Thank you. And then next, approval of the June 27th workshop meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
Second.
All right, any corrections to these minutes? Oh. Sounds like that. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving these minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, so we have 7 approving and Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Delventura abstaining. Right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a public forum for topics on the board agenda only. If there is anyone who would like to address the board on a topic on the agenda, you're certainly welcome to come up to the podium. We ask that you limit to 3 minutes and just give your name and your street address if you would. Is there anyone who wanted to address the board this evening? All right. To review and approval of expenditures of the month of June 2022. I was the reviewer of the finances. So expenditures for the month of June were $9,695,405.15. Expenditures and encumbrances through the end of June were 99.49% of the budget, as compared to 98.75% in the 2020-21 year and 99.42% in the 2019-20 year. We did go over the various budget categories, noting that salaries are a bit higher, purchase services are a bit higher, and capital is a bit higher than the prior years, whereas tuition is lower, and employee benefits and transportation and supplies and materials are comparable. We expect that what will happen at our meeting in August is that we will be presented with a request for some budget transfers that will allow us to make sure that each of our budget lines are at or under budget as we in our business office tries to close out the year. We did talk about this financial report and the warrants extensively in the operations committee meeting that just occurred, but I certainly welcome you and colleagues who have anything to note from that discussion. All right. So I'm going to ask a motion to approve the June 2022 financial reports. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and, Dr. Rich as well, so that is none. All right, communications. Do any of my colleagues have communications to report from the last one? Okay.
I have heard a few things from folks who want me to bring a couple of topics up to the board's attention and possibly into our policy meeting coming up. One would be to review cell phone policy at Guilford High School. I had some folks in favor of keeping phones in high school for the kids to be able to keep their phones, and other people thinking that they should not have any access to their phones at all. So people are asking us to look at a cell phone policy at GHS. Another correspondence came from a staff member who lives out of town, but would like to have the ability to bring their students, pay tuition and bring their students here. So they were asking us to kind of revisit that. I know we've talked about it from time to time about whether or not we can have staff members, children attend Guilford schools at a cost or at whatever we decide. And then other folks have mentioned that they would like us to offer tuition to children outside of district in general, so people can kind of purchase an education here in Guilford. Again, we've talked about that before, but that was something that we would like us to perhaps talk about in the policy committee. And then lastly, the return of electives. People are asking us to evaluate how here at Guilford High School we may be able to return some of the lost electives that we've lost because of COVID and because of reduced student numbers and staff shortages. So I don't know how we would do that, but that's something we want us to take a look at and discuss.
I think probably that the last one would be something that the school administration staff would first consider people to communicate that
The request, yeah, great.
to them as well.
All right, thank you.
Any other communication?
I know you probably already see a few support for me after being this conference. Really grateful to hear from everyone. And I've heard from a few parents as well that are still concerned about the situation of classes. It's like how many, I'm just hoping that Dr. Freeman is evaluating and working on that situation.
I do know, but we are aware of that, right? That was also brought up to us last month. And I know that is watching in fact all some and students coming out. So okay, that's great. So we have communications. Any others? I had one verbal communication from someone who expressed their great appreciation for the culture after their just wanted to see that was a great. Moving on. All right. It's going to be a little shorter meeting because we have a few things that are usually on the agenda that we're not going to have tonight. The student representatives are absent here because we are on. And again, Dr. Freeman is late at a conference, so he does not have a superintendent's report tonight. So we're going to move right on to the board agenda. The first item on the board agenda is to receive for possible action extension of the superintendent's contract in terms for 2022. So tonight we'll be voting on the superintendent's contract as negotiated between the Board of Education and our superintendent, Dr. Paul Freeman. Prior to the negotiation, the board met with Dr. Freeman and then met without him as part of our annual evaluation of the superintendent. These meetings and the contract discussions occurred as appropriate in executive sessions over the last month and a half. This evaluation and negotiation comes as Dr. Freeman heads into his 12th year as superintendent of Guilford Public Schools. I noted before and will note again that his tenure far exceeds the average number of years that superintendents stay within a given district. And we continue to benefit greatly from this tenure, both due to the expertise that Dr. Freeman brings to the district, and because of the consequent stability that comes from continuous leadership such as this. For the superintendent's evaluation, I will note that Dr. Freeman has continued to provide highly skilled and informed leadership to our district. He has led the district through a continuing pandemic, and the board has heard from Dr. Freeman and directly from teachers that this year has been even more challenging than the prior 2 years. Our students' needs, both from an instructional standpoint and from the standpoint of social emotional wellness, have been greater than ever. Dr. Freeman's continued attention to building and supporting relationships with the board, parents, with staff, town officials, and leaders in other districts continues to benefit this district. And he has continued his commitment to the important social justice and equity work in the service of all of our students and their instructional opportunities and their social well-being. One of the 2 principals that were just hired to serve local public schools noted at our board meeting this month. And I think in response to a question from Mrs. Rader about why he wanted to work in Guilford public schools, and part of his answer was that he wants to work for the best superintendent in the state. It certainly underscored the recognition of his skill and talent. We are the beneficiary of that here. We have 2 votes tonight. One is to vote on, again, following our negotiation, the proposed terms of the contract for the July 2022, June 2023 year. We are aware that tonight is July 11th, so this will be retroactive to July 1st. And then the second vote, because Dr. Freeman's contract is a 3-year contract. Every year we vote on the terms for the immediate next year, and we have the opportunity to extend the contract. Again, our evaluation and contract negotiations of the proposed terms that we will be voting on tonight are as follows. An increase in salary and the tax shelter annuity of 3%. In addition to fringe benefits, number 7 in the contract, the board will fund long-term care insurance for the superintendent and spouse up to $9,250 annually. And then there are amendments proposed to the contract regarding vacation days. We are well aware that administrators and staff are really struggling to take vacation days over the last couple of years. Dr. Freeman's present contract or current contract just prior to this proposal doesn't provide any kind of compensation at separation for individual students. So we are proposing 2 amendments to this contract. The first is 7 years for benefits to increase the superintendent's ability to forego vacation days each year and receive the per diem compensation at 1/221 of the annual salary. Currently it's 5. We propose to increase that to 12. We certainly want and hope that he will take vacation. It's a really important way to monitor health, but we really recognize that. The second amendment is to 70 fringe benefits, and it provides for compensation for up to 15 unused vacation days at the time of retirement of the contract, provided that the superintendent remains employed in the district through June 30th, 2020. So those are the terms of the proposed contract. Vote on that. I just want to give my colleagues an opportunity.
Say that, we can all appreciate what we've all witnessed the past few years in terms of coming through the pandemic. Some community pressures on Dr. Freeman that were probably well beyond what he ever anticipated. But yet he has stayed really steadfast and really strong communicator with all of us, and hopefully you all feel that in the community. And we absolutely wanted to recognize the idea that he rarely takes vacation, and although we want to encourage, we felt that was a really nice balance to say to him that we really like you to stay, and we really like to continue the great work we're doing. And so I hope that the community can see that this contract reflects that. We feel it's balanced and responsible, but we also want to recognize that the work that Dr. Freeman is doing with us and want to continue.
That not on top of everything else that we've done. And feeling your way through this process with some bumps, admittedly, I am not really easy. I don't know that there's been other board members who have special needs children and who have such strong advocates for parents and trying to balance that Board of Education role versus a parent role versus supporting the school system role. So I know on a personal level, he's been tremendous with me and my family in working through all of those issues. And I do support the work that he's done, and I think he's done a tremendous job. I wish he was here to thank him personally.
Anyone else? All right. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the proposed terms for the superintendent's contract for July 2022 to 2023. With regards to the salary increase, the long-term care insurance, and the amendments to the vacation. Is there a motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Dr. First. So that is unanimous vote in support of the superintendent's contract with the proposed terms as identified. The second part of this is to ask for a motion to extend the superintendent's contract for a third year. Is there such a motion?
Second.
So that was for a motion, Mr. Petra second, all in favor?
Aye.
And Dr. Bush. So that is also a unanimous board vote to extend Dr. Freeman's contract for a third year. Dr. Freeman is obviously not here with us tonight, but again, I will note the applause for him for sure. And we are grateful for 11 years of service and are looking forward to working together. It's a remarkable. All right. 9.2 is to act on a personnel item. So we are being asked to ratify the appointment of the following teachers. Kelly Ingram, one full-time equivalent at Lakes and Lee Elementary School in the elementary mathematics coaching position. Russell Kleiner, also one full-time equivalent at Fox Elementary School music teacher. And Chelsea Costello, full-time equivalent, one full-time equivalent at Fox Elementary grade 4 teacher. Is there a motion to ratify the appointment of these three teachers? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You've got that first. And then we are being asked to ratify the resignation of the following teachers. Christina Tran, 0.6 full-time equivalent course music teacher at its middle school after a 1-year service. Teresa Yajarelli, apologies, full-time equivalent elementary Spanish teacher at Jones and Elite, 10 years of service in Guilford. And Jamie Conklin, one full-time equivalent at the high school, is a 1-year assignment, PE health teacher. Is there a motion to approve the ratified resignation of these teachers? Second? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's terrific. Okay. You're being asked to receive for possible action a resolution on the capital equipment use.
First we have custodial supply.
Custodial, right? Thank you, because I was going to say custodial funding, so that's just an error. Okay, resolution, thank you, for custodial equipment use. So we are being asked to approve the request on the following bill. Custodial supplies, there are 63 items that go out to bid. These are high use items in our schools by our custodial staff. We had 8 vendors that submitted bids for some or all of the items. The results have been compiled to determine the low bid for each item. And so the administration and Mrs. Trudeau are requesting approval from the board to award each item of the bid to the vendor that submitted the low bid. Among the 8 vendors, 4, will are being identified as the lowest bidder. So Hilliard Rogan, KNS Distributors, Unipac, and WBs. So is there a motion to approve the awarding of the 63 items among these 4 vendors?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect, thank you, that's everybody. All right, 9.5 is to receive for possible action. Waive the bidding requirement and to award the bid for the capital piece, capital purposes. So every year, there is an attempt to bid the capital piece, which is what we fund a lot of our IT equipment in the district. For the last several years, I'm going to welcome Mrs. Trudeau to interrupt if I mess this up at any point. I'm going to welcome her to the table. For the last several years, it has been harder and harder to find banks that are going to be willing to enter this type of agreement, do this type of and this year in particular, 2 of the banks that we have worked in the past, one of them decided not to consider the lease because of the lower size. These are generally leases in the 500. So we do have a bid from JP Morgan, and so the first request from the administration is that we approve waiving of our typical bidding process, given the fact that the outcome of the attempt to bid was that only one of these grants was going to come. I will say, well, we'll enter this in next piece. So is there a motion to waive the bidding process in this case?
I don't.
All in favor?
Aye. We also have to approve their portion of this, which they already have.
No, that's very important. Thank you. So we are not in a position to enter this kind of, we as a board, to enter this kind of agreement. So as Mr. Delvin just pointed out, the Board of Selectmen also had to vote on this and has already. All right, and so the second piece of this is to approve and vote on the resolution to authorize this lease purchase agreement and award with JP Morgan in the amount of $575,000. Again, this is a capital equipment lease. Includes purchases, including Chromebooks for several grades. We have a regular schedule of replacing Chromebooks in the district. Network switches, teacher laptops, and also includes a maintenance fee. Again, this is a 5% interest rate. Upfront for over 5 years. This is going to ask if there's anything important that I haven't mentioned that you're voting on this. We did talk about it in the presentation. Okay, terrific. Is there then a motion to approve on the board and authorization by this purchase agreement? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Dr. Gross, wonderful. Okay, so that is a unanimous vote. The waiving the bid and thank you. To act on the textbook recommendation, last month, Dr. Crystal brought forward a textbook recommendation for forensic science. This textbook is used in a new elective that can be offered at the school. The textbook has been on display at Lakewood House to allow the board member and committee member, in fact, to look at it. We are now being asked. Is there a motion to approve this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm going to stop talking about it. Stop talking and turn it over to my colleague, Easy Peck, because we are now going to receive a number of recommendations from the policy committee. These are receiving tonight, so no vote. Okay, you got the floor.
Okay, thank you. So in our policy committee meeting, we reviewed a number of policies that need a few revisions. The first one that I'd like to call everyone's attention to is a dining services meal. It's policy number 3724. I will read through the changes for you. Noteworthy, these are directly from the new state statute. So this is something that we have to include in the policy. I'll just read through the full paragraph so it makes sense. GPS is not encouraged for certain means, but understands that an occasional emergency may require a student. In the event that the student has no money for the finance, the student will be allowed to charge a single meal and items and any additional events are the same. Charging these meals at the time of service will refrain from identifying such students. Services will send an email to the family. This communication will include additional resources for families that reintroduce meals, local food pantries, snack benefits, and local community services. So again, that is directly from the state, and we'll have that on. Great. Okay. Next is policy 6336, curricular exemptions. I'd actually like to cover items 8.62 and 8.63 together. As you can see, we've got the same policy number listed. What we are going to do is actually extract and delete in the policy handbook, our original current standards, which relates to. We are going to roll that into a larger curricular exemption section, which will also be 636. And I'll cover some highlights of the new 636 on curricular exemptions. Mandatory curricular exemptions from the state include one section, family life, AIDS, or section have to allow parents to opt their children out of those curriculum if they want to. You can read through the definitions of those. The other things that I would like to highlight, except for the mandatory curricular exemptions that are above or otherwise required by the law, the board does not require teachers to exempt students from any other aspects of the curriculum. So those are the only topics on which students can be exempt. And I would like to also point out that included in this policy is alternative assignments. So students excused from participating in any topics listed shall be required to complete an alternate assignment to be determined by the teacher. So if a parent elects to exempt their student from any of those 4 topics, the teacher can assign an alternative assignment at his or her discretion. Okay, so you guys can read through that full policy for me on 6336. Any questions on that?
Just that this, so this red line copy is the former.
This is the one that we are
Okay.
eliminating. Yeah.
Okay.
So the one that specifically talks about the section of animals is just getting rolled
Just
into
rolled into.
the larger 6336.
Also attached is a form that parents can fill out. Is that, I believe that's new, right?
That's new, yes.
That lays it out a little bit better. for
Yes,
parents.
and that'll have clear definitions of by what time a parent has to identify, I don't want my kid taking this particular class, they've got to actually formally notify the school. So you guys take a look at that specific sheet as well for me. Thank you.
And as is typical throughout our overall policy manual, there are the legal references that make some statutes that reference where these.
The last one is the revisions to the bylaws of the board. We had an executive session with our attorneys to kind of advise us on our bylaws, the board bylaws. Some of them hadn't been updated since the 80s. Some of them still had like funny smoking policies. So included tonight are Shipman, full bylaws, all of the corrections that they have suggested that we make on our bylaws. So that is going to be riveting reading for everyone over the next month. And we can take a vote on that hopefully at our next full board meeting in August.
Right, any further discussion on this? Okay. Right along, section 10 of the agenda, number 10, reports of committees. We just do the report, anything else?
The only thing that I want to mention to the board is at our last policy committee meeting, we did have a number of topics that we would like to discuss as a larger board. So some of them we tabled, we did not bring forward to the board tonight. So at our next policy committee meeting, if as many folks who are not on that committee can attend that meeting, we'd be really grateful. So we can have a wider discussion.
So what I can do then is make sure, just to send out a reminder.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Operations committee, Thomas, anything in addition?
I think just 2 quick points. Number one, as we end out the financial year, kudos to Linda and her team for closing the books on everything. It's a lot of work to get it done, and amazing job as always. Secondly, kudos as well to Clifford, who and the maintenance team does an absolutely amazing job this time of the year. There's a lot to get done over the summer months, and they started day one and will continue throughout the whole entire summer. So well done, maintenance team, for everything you guys did.
Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee. Dr. Hirsch, do you have anything to report?
We're nothing to report. We'll start meeting in the fall.
Okay, and I'll just repeat in case you didn't hear. So there's nothing to report at the moment for Curriculum Instruction Assessment Committee. And the next meeting will be in the fall. Any liaisons to town committees? You may have a report? No? All righty. And we still need to find someone to be a liaison for the board of directors. Correct. Do they meet in summer? They do not. Okay. Okay. All right, we are up to number 11. There's an opportunity for public comment again. If anyone would like to address the board, you're welcome to come up. Again, give your name and address, and limit to 4 minutes. If you would. So anyone would like to address the board this meeting? Hi.
Jennifer Florey. My address is that.
Yes, please
Okay,
just tell me.
91 North Mile Road. So I'm here to speak about the possible request to increase another class size for the current first and second grade students at need. Thank you for your responses to the board members that have responded to the parents that have reached out. As you're aware, there's a forum of over 30+ parents that are extremely passionate about this issue. And it's wonderful to know that you're still evaluating this and monitoring enrollment as things go forward. You know, the parents, I think our attitude is good to have some patience, obviously, because we realize there's a lot that goes into this decision. It's potentially and hopefully hiring another staff member to participate at our district. And knowing that the budget had already passed out this allotment, it's challenging. But I'm looking to your creative thinking in the event if the decision is made that this is an appropriate choice. You know, obviously we had a transition of leadership and are thrilled to have Mr. Michael Seal joining 12-8. And we, you know, presented data as far as class sizes, the enrollment from cited from last October of the current second graders that are going to third grade. Their class size did increase over the summer. And so they ended up instead of 37 kids at 40, and so there were 20 kids in the class. Now, granted, that's within the guidelines of the second grade class sizes, yet I am asking that, you know, Mr. Michael meets with the teachers, which I know he's currently doing, to evaluate, you know, their specific struggles that they experience in the class. You know, we know from speaking with parents and their children about their children and teachers and their experiences that these children are a little bit more socially and developmentally developmentally from an emotional / coping standpoint. I mean, my son, who gets easily distracted, I counted. And now this is an effective partnership where the teacher and I are trying to find solutions to best help my son self-regulate and experience some emotional control in the classroom. 52 emails exchanged, and that really even started around Thanksgiving, so that's even a whole year. And this particular teacher had 15 students in the class, and she's doing that with my student. I know she's doing it with all of her students. And these parents that support this change do love our lead teachers, and we also want the best for them. We want them to stay in Guilford. We want them to teach our Guilford children, and we want them to have a good experience without experiencing burnout, which is very common in teachers, especially among the Guilford grades. You know, and even though we're live, there's a lot of in-person instruction that's still lacking based on local quarantines, and there's really nothing we can really do about that. Those are the guidelines, but even though we are in person full time, there's still gaps in in-person learning based on this pandemic and Omicron, which really do us any favors. But we all got through it. And the bottom line is we've asked and we are extremely grateful that Guilford has such policies and that the board is hearing us. Yet now that we have the leadership and the enrollments are being evaluated, this is on Dr. Freeman's, your radar. We just ask that please reach out to the teachers, whether it's yourself personally or through our new principal, Mr. Seal, to really understand what some of their challenges are. They're here not only for our students, but for the future of students that are coming. I have a daughter that will be in kindergarten in 2 years, and I'd love for this to be a standard. As far as standards are concerned, the other 3 elementaries all have 3 second grade sections. So there's an element of equity and parity here in the district that we're asking for. So thank you again for your consideration. And just really wanted to put back and ask what a decision looks like, right? So the parents that emailed are you're evaluating enrollment. Are you going to be evaluating enrollment at all the elementaries? It seems like that was part of your process. Are you
Thank you so
also?
much for that.
Okay, okay, that was it?
You can wrap it.
Okay, so, and just to also look at Baldwin and Adams, because there's data support that those class sizes are smaller than our lower. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I don't mind taking a minute, so, the administration does in fact, look at the enrollment at all 4 elementary schools at Baldwin, at Adams, or at the high school. It can be a challenge for the elementary schools on a given year. The Lakes 3rd grade may have what we call bubble class, right? And then 2 years later, Cops 1st grade could have a bubble class. So there will always be years, which is very frustrating for parents, where, and looking at the numbers here, at the point, right, that the 3rd grade classes at Lakes have 22 and 19, or 20 kids in them, and the same grade at Cox has 16 and 17. And we can't divide those 3 classes at Lakes and have, I do my math very well, classes of 12, right? Because we also need to be responsive to as well, right, who are supporting this. But if we did that, then they have the lower, right? This is, so it truly is a challenge.
Yes.
We are guided by the class size policies. Though you have made clear that you'd like us and you'd like the administration to reconsider that given the pandemic. So we've certainly heard that request. But there are a number of factors that will be looked at, and part of it is what's happening in the district, across the district, right? Because it may not be that the 2nd grade is the only one that is having an issue. And then what's its administration. So please know it is being watched very carefully. But I can't tell you what the decision will be, and it will be based not just on that grade and those classes, but on what's going on in the district. Sure.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board?
I had a question, and this is about me, I know you guys are all drivers, but about, just for IT equipment.
Oh, I'm sorry, the capital
the
needs.
Capital needs.
Yes.
What is that as a lease and non?
Yeah, so we talked actually, we talked about this in some detail in operations committee. So it many years ago, more than 15 maybe, this was mine generally. So we in the public schools, we go to administration, we recognize that behind, but frankly they evolve in technology. And what started then has continued is an approach that creates a 5-year lease and allowed us at that time to purchase quite a bit of equipment quickly, but spread the payments over 5 years. And so what's happened over the years since then, as we've built up the technology in the district to provide our students with you know, all those opportunities. And then had to maintain or replace equipment, is every year consider a new 5-year lease for equipment that we purchase. And manage the payments for it. We have more detailed questions about this, but that's generally both the origin and the approach.
Is this recent because the cost is went up for us to maintain?
Again, it's literally something, I don't have the exact date, I'm looking at this studio, but it's something that was started about, I want to say about 15 years ago, under the former superintendent, Dr. Casella. And again, his recognition of, and learnings that he had had from the district of income about the need to really try to move local public schools forward quickly. And this was a way, again, to purchase a large amount of equipment without burdening the budget in that area, right? So instead of burdening of the budget, including perhaps $500,000 in the budget that year, it allowed us to buy that much equipment, but create a 5-year plan for paying it off
But there's a capital use line item in the budget for the yearly payment.
for the year.
More questions, but probably research on that. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Anybody else in the public like to address the board? All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our meeting. We thank all of you for joining us this evening. There's a small crowd here, and we appreciate your engagement for sure, and also appreciate the engagement of those watching through the live stream. I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn now.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Again, thank you. That is the end of our meeting.